Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Sangat Ji, my name is Gurpreet Kaur. I'm a clinical psychologist and I'm just making a few short videos on various aspects of mental health difficulties. This video is going to be about bipolar disorder. And I'm going to start off just talking really about the main features and characteristics of bipolar disorder. And then we'll go on to hear a little bit about the lived experience of bipolar disorder. We'll round up just thinking about some of the main recommended treatment options and other avenues for help. If after watching this video you have more questions about bipolar disorder, please do get in touch. And I will try my best to help you, and if I can't, then I will definitely try to refer you on to somebody who can. Bipolar disorder, which you also might hear being referred to as manic depression, is a mood disorder, and it's characterised by a shift in a person's mood, thoughts and behaviour. Now, variation in mood is a very common thing, and we all experience shifts in our emotions. So what do we mean about mood variation in bipolar disorder? Bipolar literally means two ends, and it refers to a person's mood swinging between two ends of a spectrum. So on one hand you have depression, on the other hand you have mania. Just thinking a little bit more about the mood variation and what we mean by that. I've got a little bit of an illustration here for us to look at. If we think about an average mood and our general up and down that we have, it would generally kind of be around here. And this is very rough, just to give an illustration of what we mean. Below an average mood would be depression, and there are different elements to depression, so we'd have mild, we'd have moderate, and we'd have quite severe. Now above the average mood state we would have mania. There are two elements to the mania because we have this part here which is called a hypomanic episode. Now in Latin, hypo means below. This part therefore is below mania. There can be similar behaviours throughout all of these, but the intensity will vary depending on where a person is on this scale. Now I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about what each of those things mean. In Latin, depression actually means to push down. But depression is far more than just feeling down. It really involves a slowing down of both mind and body processes. This affects a whole range of our experiences. It affects how we feel, how we think, how we behave, and how our biology functions. Central to the feelings of depression are really a loss of interest in everyday activities. There can be a loss of purpose or a sense of direction. A person with depression can become or feel quite guilty about their shift in mood, and often the simplest thing can become like a huge hurdle for them to overcome. Sometimes it might seem quite impossible to complete what may look like a small task. Naturally, a person's confidence may decrease, and their dependency on others may actually increase. They may find it really hard, and they may really struggle to concentrate. And certainly their attention will decrease. It just won't be the same as it was when they weren't depressed. Their eating habits may change. Some people with depression tend to eat more, other people tend to eat less. And sleeping patterns also change in a similar way. A person with depression will experience a lot of negative, difficult feelings, and it's then going to have an effect on their thought processes as well. And they may often think quite negatively, or might find themselves focusing on upsetting or sad things. They might find themselves in a process of rumination, so that means when they're just thinking about similar things over and over again in a repeated way. Some of the changes that happen in both hypomania and mania, they're going to overlap, and essentially it's going to be the intensity at which they happen which will increase the higher up they go up that scale. In mania, a person may have a sense of expansiveness, or they may have grandiose beliefs about themselves and their abilities, and this could present as overconfidence. They may experience a sense of euphoria, so they might feel a lot of joy or a lot of exhilaration or excitement. It's very typical in mania for a person to have an increased rate in their thoughts. So they might have a lot of thoughts about new ventures or new projects, and they might be really enthused to create some movement towards these things happening. You may see people scribbling, making lots of notes about ideas they have, or it might involve contacting people and trying to get people on board with their ideas. The usual boundaries we have in terms of inhibitions, they get removed quite quickly in mania, and so people will be doing things that they just wouldn't normally be doing, or contacting people in ways that they usually wouldn't. And while this overall level of productivity might seem great, actually sometimes, well, most likely it's quite ineffective, because thoughts are not sustained on a certain thing long enough for that plan to necessarily be formalised. This isn't always the case, but more often than not, a person isn't able to really see through all of the ideas that they have. And again, that can lead to a sense of frustration of why can't I just carry on with this thing, this idea that I've had, or also not being able to hold on to the ideas that were had during the manic phase. The grandiosity that a person has, their beliefs that they may be more capable than they are, might lead to them actually creating plans that are out of their reach. And again, if a person then looks at that plan when they're out of the manic phase, you can imagine that it's actually a very hard experience to have. A person in mania might become very hard to understand. They may become irritable. Their speech might become quite rapid, and they may jump from one topic to another, and they may become louder in their speech as well. Another aspect of the inhibitions being removed is also an increased spending behaviour. So again, lots of clients I've spoken to have gotten themselves into debt because they believe they had more money than they did. Thinking about the removal of inhibitions, it can sometimes lead to an increased interest in sexual preoccupation as well, and sometimes people will engage in sexual relationships that they just wouldn't do usually. That can obviously be quite risky, and there can be a lot of regret about those behaviours when the person actually comes down from the manic episode. Now, because of the overall sense of the energy increasing during mania, it actually prevents a person from sleeping. So a person with mania may have an extremely reduced amount of sleep, and that actually just perpetuates the difficulty. Obviously, we all know our bodies just can't keep going on that level, and it's very typical for a person with bipolar disorder to crash. Bipolar disorder is a long-term condition, and it's said to affect at least 1 to 2% of the population, although recent research does show that 5% of us are somewhere on the spectrum. In its severe form, it's said to affect both men and women equally, and in its milder form, it's said to affect women more. Now, on average in the UK, it's said to take at least 8 to 10 years to receive a correct diagnosis of bipolar disorder. The World Health Organization identifies bipolar disorder as one of the top causes of lost years of life and health in 15 to 44-year-olds. And unfortunately, bipolar disorder is actually said to increase the risk of suicide by 20 times. Bipolar disorder can actually present in many different ways, and within the whole category of bipolar disorder there are subcategories as well. So there's bipolar disorder 1, bipolar disorder 2, cyclothymia, rapid cycling. These are different terms that psychiatrists use. Now, it goes without saying that a person's own experience of mania will vary enormously from another person's experience of mania. But what hopefully a person will be able to do is get to the stage where they may start noticing patterns in terms of some of the triggers, but also some of the behaviours that manifest over time. It's very important to understand a person's experience directly by asking them what it is that they're experiencing and what it is that they may need in terms of support and help and understanding. We're going to see now a short video by GurSikh, who's a Sangat member who's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and he shares his experience of managing bipolar disorder, especially by referring to Gurmat and Gurbani.
First, I would like to say that I consent to this information being shared and in the public realm. My name is GurSikh, I am 24 years old. The mental health diagnosis I'm going to talk about today is bipolar. I know how difficult it can be dealing with mental health, especially when you have very little support in the Indian community. I would like to say it answers a lot of questions about my behaviours in my life, about my thought process, my actions, and the responses I have. So yeah, it doesn't justify it, but it just answers why I behave the way I behave sometimes. They were since childhood. The earliest memories I have of having irregular sort of moods or irregular behaviour was from childhood. The warning signs were having bad reports from school of being very vacant, not wanting to study, not wanting to achieve, having suicidal thoughts, having wanting to stay out all the time, not wanting to be at home, just wanting to be with friends all the time. The first kind of reaction I got was denial, and that led to, once a family had gotten over denial, that brought around issues, that also brought around sort of very little support. It created a lot of anger in the house, not personally from me, but from family when they couldn't understand why I was behaving the way I was behaving, from why I was doing what I was doing, why I was responding the way I was responding. That created conflict, and that led to me just being isolated, and that was just the easiest way to avoid that conflict. I'm not sure. If family had gone the opposite way and been all embracing, I don't know if that would have helped me, because at this moment in time, I'm not after that. Um, I am in a situation where I am now trying just to deal with it myself and understand more about the way I behave and more about what I'm doing myself. Yes, I do have many concerns because it's wrongfully a taboo subject. And the way Indians deal with it, the way Apane deal with it, they love to shove it under the carpet, they love to shove it under the rug, they love to basically bury it and never talk about it again, and that can make you feel very isolated, and that can make you feel very like an outsider to your society, to your family, to your culture, to your community. So yes, I do have a lot of concerns. It felt very isolated. I completely isolated from the family. Had very dark, grim thoughts, and I just wanted to disappear from my society. I wanted to move. I wanted to start a new life. No one knows me. No one understands me. No one needs to talk to me, and I just go about my business. I do my business, and I go home. That's all it. That is the worst, and that is how I felt at that time. Naam Simran and having the correct Sangat. These two elements really helped me. These two invaluable parts of my life. Naam Simran has carried me through bad times, it's prevented some bad times as well. And having that correct Sangat that not only points you to the Guru, but also gives you the tools of understanding, knowing what to read, how to read it, knowing different types of books to read, giving you those type of tools to actually connect to the Guru has helped me go through my worst experiences. The efforts I've done is going to Yudhabhyas, going to classes, practicing at home, doing Naam Simran, putting my own effort into Naam Simran, understanding what Naam Simran is. I wouldn't say I understand it, but just trying to understanding how my body and mind reacts. Reading Gurbani, reading Itihas, trying to really immerse myself into Gurmat as much as I can. So that also includes reflection, that also includes time to sit by myself and analyse this is my head behaviour, this is where I am, how do I get there? Trying to think about the wider picture of how my behaviour is affecting everything else and how I can change it accordingly because I want to change it. So yeah, these type of efforts I've put in to deal with it and to help myself. Yes, I find that now that my condition is not something that I'm fighting with anymore. I'm not trying to get rid of bipolar. I'm just trying to deal with it. I'm just trying to understand what it is and try to make it into the best situation I can rather than try to let it affect me adversely. That's a difficult question for me to answer because I don't know what I would have done differently, and personally I don't know if there's anything I should have done because I wasn't in a position to know. What I would say retrospectively is I wish that I found out sooner. What those actions would have been, I don't know. What those actions would have led to, I don't know, but I suppose that is probably the thing that I wish I had done differently. I've learnt to recognise some triggers. I've learnt to recognise what will make my mood fluctuate, and I've learnt to recognise people, situations, emotions, scenarios that will really affect me adversely, and as a result of that, I either try to avoid those situations or I never allow anyone externally to put me into a fluctuating mood. It keeps me very headstrong. I don't let people talk down to me or bring any aggression or try to make me upset. If someone is talking to me a way I don't like them, I'll tell them straight, direct, don't talk to me that way. If you want to talk to me in a different way. Do not talk to me that way. I'm not here to be spoken to that way. I've done it with family, I've done it at home, I've done it at work, and this has just been a result of the experiences I've had because I need to safeguard my mental stability. I would like them to know that I have found peace by doing Naam Simran. That's a huge thing, and I have found further peace by talking to the Guru, listening to the Guru, and understanding what the Guru says. And by that I mean reading the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, reading Itihas like Sri Pant Prakash, reading anything that's written about the Guru, anything that's the Guru's name is mentioned, just trying to immerse myself in there. And the driving force behind that is one bachan that my Sangat shared with me from Guru Gobind Singh, which is Jo muj bachan sun ko chahe, Granth ji pare sunane chet laye. And that's really been the motivating, the push factor to actually read and understand and remember the books, remember the Itihas, remember anything that has the Guru's name on it, because that has really given me a lot of peace. And Guru says it in Gurbani anyway, Sab Sukh Data Ram hai. There is no, I can't, personally I have gone through trying to find external peace, and that's always been temporary, and I have personal experience of that Bani Sab Sukh Data Ram hai, because that is literally, if someone says to me, where do you get peace from, that is the Bani that I will go to, because that explains everything. I would like the information of being able to go to the Guru, but that means there has to be two efforts at this. You can't blame it all on the Panth, and you can't blame it all on the individual. The Panth needs to be in a position where they be able to fully understand Gurmat properly, where they can give Gurmat advice to people who are going through mental difficulties, not make videos like, oh, desserts, stress spelled backwards is dessert, so when you're stressed have a dessert, because, you know, that's really Gurmat advice. Doesn't matter even if you say it as a joke. When you're sitting on the stage acting that way, that's not something people should be advising. But also there has to be an individual effort, which is that you have to be able to be in a position to use Bibig Buddhi or intelligent discrimination to differentiate between what is Gurmat and Manmat. And that effort has to come from reading Itihas, reading Gurbani, doing Naam Simran, doing the Hukum of the Guru, doing your, doing everything that the Guru says, because this helps develop what is Gurmat and what is Manmat. But yeah, that's the information that I wish that people in our community can get access to, which is that the Guru is able to help you. He is there to help you. And he has got the answers. Just to conclude the video, if I have said anything that is upset anyone, if I've said anything that is against Gurmat, please maafi mangde. But if I've said anything that is of any value to someone or anyone that's helped, please understand this is from the Guru, and this is not from me, and all the fateh goes to the Guru. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
I would like to say a huge dhanbad on behalf of the Sangat to Jastor Singh for sharing his experiences of bipolar disorder. He gave a very interesting account of how he felt that Sangat, so community, was also very important to him in terms of accessing Gurbani to help him manage his experience of bipolar disorder. Now, according to NICE guidelines, the most effective interventions for bipolar disorder, and certainly what somebody should be offered if they're receiving treatment for bipolar disorder, are the discussion about medication and also psychological therapy. Now, psychological intervention is really, really important in managing bipolar disorder. It's really about looking at a person's experience of mania and depression in terms of their internal processes and using various techniques and strategies to help personalise that meaning and experience for them in order to help them manage some of the difficulties. This is going to really only be had by accessing therapies. It's really important to actually start monitoring your moods, and if you were thinking about seeking help, it might speed up the process. If we think of the mania part of bipolar as a light switch that's on, you don't want that light to become brighter because the mania is just going to keep escalating. So anything that adds to an elevated mood, really you want to stay away from that. So we're thinking about things like drugs and alcohol. A person experiencing mania really needs to aim to try to turn that light switch off. Focusing on sleep and focusing on activities or experiences that make you feel relaxed is also a really important element to managing mania. It's really useful also to focus and practice more regularly, practices such as Simran. And if you can't do Simran, if you find that very difficult, thinking about mindfulness, thinking about other types of meditation. The more these tools are used on a frequent basis, the more use there will be when a person needs them. So really do try to put as much practice in as possible, as frequently as possible, not just at the point when you need it, because it's not going to be as effective. I know it's very difficult for people to sometimes listen to their close friends or close family, but it's, I think, a really important point in managing bipolar disorder. People around us are really good at actually noticing when we're changing, and if you can act on that advice, you might just be able to catch that mania or the hypomanic episode or the depression a lot sooner. A really useful charity to think about accessing is Bipolar UK. Please do Google them, they're fantastic and they offer a whole host of different services. If you're a carer of somebody who has bipolar disorder, you are also recommended by NICE to have a carer's assessment. Now, Carers UK are very good at helping people identify how to go about having a carer's assessment, so please do go to their website and check out the information they have online. So this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you again to Dr Gurpreet for sharing his experience of bipolar disorder. And I have just a question really for Sangat, and my question is about how can you go on to converse about bipolar disorder with your friends and your family? Is there any way that you can help develop more of a positive dialogue about the experience that someone with bipolar disorder may have, and also how to approach them or talk to them about their experiences? If you haven't already done it, please do complete the questionnaire that should be in the link with this video. And thank you for watching. There will be more videos released soon, and we hope to see you again. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.